All right, you guys, as you can see by the title, this is something a little different. This is not Inner Demons. This is not War Stories. This is something a little bit different. So check it out, you guys. I'm going to bring the Q&As back. I told you I want to incorporate those Q&As back in the normal lineup, in the regular lineup. However, what I want to do as well, I want to start taking a question in the comments or a topic that's of common interest and give you my thoughts on it. This is not no reaction stuff. We're not going to do that. This is kind of like it's a Q&A, but I'm going to do it live, or I'm going to do it in the form of a video. So, you know, one of the first topics that I want to talk about today is something that I thought was kind of interesting, you know, and that has to do with how prison is evolving with social media. And I'm going to give you guys an example and break it down for you. So check it out. So those of you that have been to prison, you guys know that whenever you drive up to a household, whether it's a county jail, a prison, whether it's Pelican Bay, Corcoran, Salinas Valley, wherever, there is what is called a Norteño questionnaire, or the NA process. And there's several levels, or there's several parts of that process. And I'm going to tell you guys how it works. So when you get there, let's just say you drive up to Pelican Bay, and you're in your cell, the CO walks away. As soon as the CO walks away, somebody's gonna holler at you. Hey, homie, hey, where you from? You know, you're gonna establish that initial contact with the man from the city or from wherever. And they're gonna tell you, hey, once you get situated, make a line so that I can get at you. Usually in Pelican Bay, you're not really gonna have to do that because you can come out. A lot of times they'll just pop your gate. But like if you're in Corcoran or something, you'll encounter a scenario like this. So they'll tell you after you finish getting situated, make a line so that, I can get at you. So, once you've established that line of contact and you're situated and you shoot your line, they're going to get back at you and they're going to tell you, welcome to the household. It's going to be something along these lines right here. Welcome to the household. As part of being a new arrival, we'd like to ask for the following information. And it's going to consist of your name, your birth date, your age, your AKA, your neighborhood, all your identifying information, what you were charged with, what you went to prison for, your CDC number. The first one is just to get the ball rolling. It's usually just the basic stuff. Once you filter that out, they take that information, it goes to the channel on the tier or whoever's in that block, and then they filter it out to all the active Norteños within that household, so that, everybody in that household, it'll go through their hands, everybody that's functioning within that household. So they're required to submit any and all positive and negative information on the new arrival. So, they might have something like, I was with that individual. I know him. I was with him in Pelican Bay in 98, and as far as I know, he was functioning. He's all good. He was cleared up there. That's all I know. Somebody else might know something else. Hey, I was with him in Solano in 85. He's a piece of shit. He's no good. I don't know what happened from then on, but this is the last time I seen him. They removed him, or whatever the case might be. So that stuff gets filtered to the security in that household, the OA or the regimental commander, however they got their chain of command set up. Now, if there's no negative information that comes back on the individual, what they do is they take the name and they'll go through the BNL and they'll run it through the BNL. This is their way to check to make sure that this isn't somebody that's trying to infiltrate the household, that this is somebody that's still in good standings, that this is not somebody that's on the BNL that's a target, that it is a defector. So once they go through that process, and let's just say they don't find nothing negative, there's no negative feedback that came back from everybody in the household, then you're going to get, usually the second part will already be in motion, but you're starting to get clear. So the second part, is going to be more in-depth, more thorough, a little bit about your prison history, if you functioned on the streets, who recruited you, what your status is, all that stuff. It's more in-depth. A lot of the same stuff that you've already covered, but now it's more in-depth. And again, that one right there usually will just stay with the OA. That's a lot of the information contained in that is for him and for his eyes only. it's not usually passed around to the rest of the household. If it is, it's consolidated. It's just little bits and pieces or certain parts of it that's rewritten in the form of a filter, and that's what's sent out to the manpower. Now, that's how it was when I went to prison. And those were, again, the basics were your name, your number, your jail number, if you're in jail, your CDC number, what you were convicted of, your entire, your history, your prison history, your hood, your AKA, all that stuff, who recruited you and all that. So trip out. Now, this is how prison is evolving with social media. So now that all these guys have smartphones, a lot of them have cell phones, and having a cell phone or a smartphone will give you access to a lot more information, obviously. But one of the interesting things is, it came up in my feed a while back. I seen it on YouTube. It was a video. I can't remember exactly what it was or who put it out, but there was a video that came out, and basically it talked about the new NA application or the new questionnaire that's now being filtered out today. And the difference is aside from everything that I just covered, now they're asking you as part of the questionnaire to, one of the questions is something to the effect of, we would also like to ask you any and all profile and passwords to any social media sites that you might have, including, or, which might include YouTube, Snapchat, Kik, Facebook, TikTok, whatever, all social media sites that you might have an account with, that you might have a profile with. And that's interesting to say the least, because they want you to submit that information so that once you submit your login information to the security on the tier, he can then take that information and send it down to one of the fellas that obviously has a smartphone, so that he can go on your social media sites and look at your social media interests, the things that you look at, the information that you put out, or the information that you're interested in, or who you communicate with. And that's telltale. I think this is, again, a lot of this has to do with there's no more trust. There's no more trust. I don't think this is more about evolving with the times, because like, why would a lot of that stuff, I mean, what do you guys think? Do you think it's being a little bit intrusive, or do you think as a functioning Norteño, as a functioning gang member, that you should be required to forfeit information like that? Your Facebook, where you might have pictures of your kids, you might have pictures of your wife on there, your family, where you're communicating, having communication or conversations with people, about private matters that don't concern prison or anybody else. So, I mean, where do you draw that line? When is too much too much? I've told you guys before that I've heard that the homies, it might be at some prisons. I don't know if it's, it's everywhere, but I've heard of stories about some of, the tier securities asking homeboys to send their mail whenever they get a letter. That day they're required to submit that letter with the address, envelope, everything to their tier security, so that their tier security can read it and make sure that you're not communicating with somebody you're not communicating with, or that the dialogue is, there's nothing about the dialogue that might be suspicious or might be shady. That's the same thing that they're doing now with social media. They want to know who you're talking to on Facebook. They want to know who you're talking to with, if you have a Kik account, or who you're talking to if you have a Snapchat account, who you're watching on YouTube. Obviously, YouTube right now is a hot topic. There's a lot of people on YouTube that have defected, and it's got to be a major concern. it's something that I've thought about. I've kicked it around in my mind, thinking, just if I was still active, how would I play this right here, or how would I deal with it? Because obviously you got a lot of people that have voices right now that are on social media. And, we used to look at DOs as our number one enemies because, we gamed them up. We educated these guys. We're the ones that trained them. They came from our circle. So they know everything that we know. So they're considered our number one enemies. Now, you got these same individuals now that have YouTube platforms that have somewhat, of an opportunity to influence people. And, you don't know what they're talking about. They might be, in their eyes, when you're active, when a DO is talking about politics, game politics, gang politics, they look at it as if this is somebody that's spreading poison, spreading the gospel. This guy's talking about something that he shouldn't be talking about. Politics, it's got to be poison. He's preaching against the cause or against our beliefs. So, it's got to be a big issue. It has to be. And if I was active right now, I don't know that I would go as far as, asking active norteños, active hermanos, or C's, carnals, to submit their login information to all their social media sites. That's just crazy because, for one, I mean, think about it. If I was communicating with somebody that I knew, I shouldn't be communicating with, why would I relinquish that information? Why would I turn it over? I mean, why would anybody turn that information over just so that it could come back to shoot you in the foot? It's not going to happen. I know if I'm subscribed to, and that's, of course, that's one of the things they're going to be looking for. If you got a YouTube channel, not necessarily a platform, but just, you got a YouTube account, they want to see who you're subscribed to, who you're watching, what your interests are. If there's comments, if you're dropping comments, and if you are, what are you saying? Are you somebody that is sending money to some of these individuals? They're going to think about, they're going to take a look at all that stuff. So it's interesting that that's actually part of the NA questionnaire now, that they're asking these guys, to submit all that information. I mean, what do you guys think? Seriously, do you think that, because you made a commitment to function in these organizations or these movements, or just being an active norteño, that do you think that there should be a line where enough is enough, or is this considered being intrusive? Because I think it all boils down to, it's not that they really want to know who you're watching because they have another vested interest in it. So again, I think that this is just indicative of, how much or how far trust or, the confidence has relegated within the norteño movement. If they're going that far to request that kind of information, it's crazy. But it's when you think about it, they got the phones there. There's somebody with a smartphone, so it's part of that process now. And it's crazy to see how much prison has evolved from the time that I first started going to prison in the 80s. Obviously, back then they didn't have smartphones. But now they got somebody on the tier that has a smartphone that's operating. So it's part of the process. And no matter how they do it, these organizations, these gangs, these movements, they're evolving. They're evolving with the times. Obviously, they feel like this is a necessary implementation. This is something that must be done. We got to start looking at these guys as, their profiles, their social media habits, their contacts, what are they saying? Who are they watching? Who are they communicating with? So, I mean, let's just say, for example, so if you got somebody that is crazy enough to relinquish that information, and let's just say this is an active individual, you can best believe that a lot of active cats, even though they might say that they're not watching social media sites that are being ran by defectors, you can best believe that they most definitely are. And I think this again is indicative that these guys know, they know that in prison. Shit, they're probably watching it themselves, but nobody wants to admit it, because to admit it would be to concede that, you know, you're watching, in their, again, in their eyes, poison, somebody that's spewing poison, somebody that's spreading the gospel, but, you know, not their gospel. So anyways, let's just say though, for instance, you have an individual that is active and he ends up in San Quentin, and let's just say he might not be the smartest tool in the sharpest tool in the shed, and they hit him with this questionnaire, and he reads the questionnaire and he sees that, okay, they want all my login information for my YouTube account, for all these different accounts. And this individual, for whatever reason, he doesn't think about it and he provides that information. And it gets submitted to the channel, and the homie with the smartphone ends up going on YouTube and finding out, like, oh, okay, this he's locked in over here. He's watching this guy. He's watching Paradigm Media News. He's watching this guy. That's bad business. So let's just say they do catch somebody that watches, you know, those type of social media sites. Do you guys think, those of you that have been around, well, I mean, anybody can answer the question, but do you think that those are grounds? Does this constitute whacking somebody? Is this a form of treason because you're watching these guys that are known dropouts, known defectors? Everybody, you know, they play keep away with these social media sites, but it's funny how everybody knows what's going on. Everybody's watching them. Everybody's tuned in. I know personally that there's a lot of homeboys that watch, because there's a lot of active homies that reach out to me. They tell me, B, man, we're all watching you. You know what I'm saying? We're watching you. We stay up, you know, with the things that you talk about. And now, don't get me wrong, just because they're watching the content doesn't necessarily mean that they believe in everything that's being talked about. Because let me make it clear, when you're active, anytime somebody's talking about politics openly, it's a no-no. It is a no-no. I know that. I know that. So, you know, I'm not even going to sit here and try to lie to you guys or make you believe anything else. You're not allowed to talk about any kind of politics. If you're active in any way, shape, or form, politics are not to be discussed. What we do in prison, what goes on behind the walls, our protocols, our policies, how we operate is nobody's business. That stuff is supposed to be kept in secrecy. So, you know, they'll listen to it because a lot of the times, to hear somebody else talk about it openly like that, they're intrigued by it. And again, you know, somebody like myself that's been around for as long as I've been around, you know, I know what I'm talking about, you know. So those people that say that they're not watching it, they most definitely are. And again, I think that this is one of the reasons why they have implemented these type of policies right here. So, but you know, as I sit here and I think about this stuff, and I think about, you know, if I was still active, how would I handle certain situations? And, you know, if this is what they're doing, and, you know, I pull up to a household and these are protocols and implementations that are already in effect, you know, I'm not going to go in and necessarily shut them down. If this is the way that they're doing it, and they're doing it across the board like that, then obviously I'm going to roll with, you know, how things are being ran. But as, you know, somebody that has always been in a leadership position, what do you do though? What do you do when you find out that somebody is watching these sites? How do you deal with that individual, and how do you look at them? Are you to look at this individual as somebody that can't be trusted, or is this just harmless, somebody that's just watching YouTube and is intrigued by, you know, that type of entertainment like everybody else? You know, it's obviously a little bit different because gangs, their philosophy, their ideology, their thinking processes, their belief system is a lot different from how the average normal person thinks on the streets. So, you guys might have different views and different opinions about how they should look at it and what they, how they shouldn't look at it, or, what it might mean or how to deal with it. But usually it's pretty cut and dry in there. If they think that this means that somebody might be somebody that's poisoned, he might be somebody that has been poisoned. He's communicating with people that are known dropouts. That might be grounds to remove that individual. I don't know. I don't know how far they're taking that part of it right there, but it's interesting. It's mind-blowing when I sit back and think just how much times have changed. And these gangs, these prison gangs, street gangs, they continue to evolve with the times. They're going to continue. They adapt, readapt, evolve, and continue to evolve with the changing times. Smartphones, social media, obviously these are things that they've implemented as a result of social media. So, it's interesting when you think about it. And it's interesting how, those types of things are coming into play when you're dealing with prison politics. And, I'm not going to make this a long video. I just wanted to kick this around with you guys a little bit and get some of your feedback on it in the comments. Give me your feedback on it. But, the last thing I want to elaborate on again, or, touch on again, is how do you think this makes the end feel, the norteño that's being asked to relinquish this information? Does he have a right to feel some type of way about it? I understand that whole system. Trust me, as somebody that has lived it, has done it, I understand. You're obligated to certain things. You're obligated to follow policies, rules, procedures, regulations, all that good stuff, because that's what you signed up for. But at what point does it become too much? At what point, does it become an invasion of privacy? At what point do you start to discourage people where they're like, you know what? I don't want somebody reading, my daughter's letter. I don't want somebody reading a letter that I got from my mom or from my wife. You know what I mean? Especially if she's cupcaking in there. I don't want the next man to read that stuff. Some of that stuff is held near and dear and it's private. I mean, should that stuff be scrutinized because of everything that's going on, or are they going too far? Also, what type of repercussions should somebody like that face that's found guilty of communicating with people like that, or watching that type of content? Is it grounds for removal? Does it constitute stabbing somebody? Is it a form of treason? What do you guys think? I mean, I think it's a interesting topic, and again, you guys got to understand, gangs, a lot of the times it's black or white. It's black or white. There's no in between. This could be looked at as a form of fraternizing with the enemy, associating with the enemy, and those types of things right there. You start getting into conduct unbecoming and, just characteristic flaws that they don't tolerate. They don't tolerate a lot of that stuff, especially, if you're somebody of status and you're somebody that is held to a higher standard. So, it's an interesting topic. But, what do you guys think? You think does it constitute treason? Treasonous conduct? Should they be removed for, watching that kind of content or communicating? What if they went a little bit further than that and they opened up the chats and they were able to see that this is somebody that has actually, communicated, somebody that has went on the channel, somebody that went on a panel or something, with these guys? Does that constitute treason? Should that be looked at as this individual is associating with the enemy, or is it just somebody watching social media, maybe somebody going a little bit too far and communicating with people because they have questions, they want answers? A lot of the times, a lot of the the viewers in the comments, whether they're active or not, they have questions. They want to know about certain things. Maybe they haven't been educated on that stuff yet, or you run into somebody that has been around for 2-3 decades, and they're part of certain history, or they were involved in certain things that happen within the organization. They have questions. They want to know why things happen. Because I'm going to tell you guys like this. The Norteños, they really don't have voices no more. I've talked about this before in the past, but their voices have been stumped out. Back in the 80s and the 90s, the early 90s, when there was a cause and, the organizations really did care about the people and their well-being, Norteños were encouraged to use their voice. Speak up. Hey, you're sitting at the table too. You have a voice, use it. If you can see something that we're doing that can, we can do better. If you got an idea, speak up. We're all here on the same team. Don't expect the next man or leadership to do everything. We're all together, all our minds working together, as one. We have a better chance of continuing to develop and becoming better. So, that's how it used to be. But over the years, it got to the point where cats got so heavy-handed, whether it was NR members or C's, they got so heavy-handed that they started to make the Norteños feel like, I'm not going to say nothing. I'm just going to do what's expected of me, do what I'm required to do, and that's it. Because the last time I opened up my mouth, I got a 5,000-word essay. I was doing 22 counts in the cat shit. You know what I mean? And, I was beat down verbally in front of everybody. So, they killed my voice. But that's across the board now. These Norteños don't want to speak up out of fear of reprisal. They feel like, a lot of them feel like if they speak up, they're going to be looked at as if maybe they're either bucking the system, or they're questioning or debating or something like that, when that's not the case. And I think that that's something that's wrong. But obviously it is what it is. I can't do nothing about it now. But anyways, this is just a quick one, you guys. If you guys got topics or things you want me to kick around, go ahead and drop them in the community section. I will find a topic that I think might be of common interest to a lot of you, and I'll give you my thoughts on it. This doesn't mean I'm going to start doing reactions or none of that stuff, but I'm basically prepping myself for the future when Inner Demons and War Stories come to a conclusion. We still got a ways to go. Don't trip. But so I'm expanding my horizons. I'm evolving with the time. So that's what this is. This is a new series. It's something I'm going to start doing. I don't know, maybe daily, maybe every other day. We'll see. The Inner Demons and the War Stories, they're still going to come. You guys will get something tomorrow. I got that other profile I'm working on. And again, continue to shoot your questions to the community section so that I can run the regular Q&A and incorporate it back in the lineup like I used to do. So again, you guys got topics, throw them in the community. Anyway, this is your boy B. I hope you guys enjoyed it. Give me your feedback. I want to hear you guys' feedback. So drop them in the comments. I'm out.